So the vision for my next build is a scaled down version of this fat bike that I found online. I'm hoping to build a scaled down version, maybe just a little bit bigger than a Baja mini bike. I also want my bike to have a Mad Max feel. So take a look.
Okay, so I've got this. It's actually a 1980 ATC 185. It does have like about a 1984 big red gas tank on it, which doesn't belong there, but it doesn't matter because this ATC is not in the best of shape, if you haven't already noticed. Somebody a long time ago must have decided to put front suspension on it, and what they did was they cut the forks here, welded on some angle iron, and some angle iron up top here across the original forks, and made some suspension forks. So I mean, they tried, but it's kind of funny. It's it's got to be 13 inches wide. It's crazy. So it's not by any means all original. Obviously seat missing, and the motor at first glance from the outside, you wouldn't believe it's what, almost 40 years old. It looks like it's pretty complete, and being a Honda, parts are available, so I will probably be rebuilding this, because this is the key right here. It's a pull start motor. It should suffice for my new build for Goma's Minibike Massacre 2020, and that's what we're going to use. So we'll scavenge whatever we can for parts here. But then I have this, and this was free. Is somewhere between an 82 and an 84 Suzuki GS 450, and the gas tank is massive on this. I definitely can't use this for anything. It's huge. Not going to work on a mini bike. But between this and the trike, I'm seeing, we've got possibly some suspension in the rear here. We've got a nice set of forks with a tree that, depending on the size of the front wheel that I use, I think I'm going to go with like a 7-inch. I can probably machine some new trees and use these forks, which would be great. Basically what I'm really looking at is the swing arm, the rear section, because on the trike I can use that front section with where the motor's already mounted for what I'm doing, so that'll be perfect. Mating that to the swing arm and probably widening the swing arm for a nice fat rear tire so that we can make ourselves a big wheel Honda. Well, that's the idea, but it's gonna be more Mad Max-ish. Alright, so today we're gonna take a look a little deeper at this monstrosity I picked up that someone has really kind of hacked together. Hey Curtis, can I help Dad?
Yeah.
Alright, you got your tools?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, awesome. We're gonna take the plastics in the tank off this thing and take a look underneath, and we'll get right back with you. Alright, back again. So we got the plastic fenders off, got the tank off, the airbox out. It does seem to be pretty complete. The CDI is connected, and I just disconnected the fuel line from the gas tank, but nothing seems to be missing or majorly wrong externally. I know that we're going to have some issues internally because I've already had that pull start off the other side and could turn the motor freely by hand, so I have a feeling the valves are probably stuck or piston rings are shot, but I'm going to do a top end rebuild on the motor, so that shouldn't matter. And yeah, otherwise I think it's going to be pretty usable. One cool thing is that I did a little research and found out that the forks on that GS 450 are 33mm tubes, and a Honda ATC 200X also has 33mm tubes. So I'm thinking I'll probably remove the whole triple tree, grab a triple tree off a Honda 200X, which will save me a lot of machining time not having to make a triple tree, and I can use the fork tubes and shocks off of that GS for this project, because these ones are pretty crappy. Alright, I'm out here again with my helper. This is my little guy Curtis.
Hi.
And he's going to help us figure out what we're doing here and continue on with the project. So let me just show you what's happened since the last time we were on video, and that is not a lot with the bikes, but we've got the plastics off, we've got the fenders off, the all of that kind of stuff, and we left it off. And we were talking about this front fork setup, which we don't like and that we want to change. So in order to do that, we're planning on using these forks as mentioned previously, but we do need a triple tree for that. So we've gone to eBay, usual go-to, and we've picked up this nice 200X triple tree. Hopefully we can reuse the same ball bearings that come out of the 185 on these collars, and I do believe the nut is the same thread as the 200X, so we can use the top nut off of that assembly as well. So we'll slip the GS450 forks through here, and we can adjust exactly where we want them, because we are going to try and slightly slim this bike down to more of a Mega Minibike size versus a full motorcycle size. So we'll work on that as we go. Along with that, of course, once we have the forks in place, we're going to need a front wheel assembly. So my new friend Michael, which sold me this 185, he happened to have a 250R front spindle, and the 250R front spindle assembly is essentially the same as a 200X. So I got that from him, which is great. Then I don't know how, but I got really lucky finding an immaculate used 200X front rim. It's in really, really good shape. I haven't even cleaned this. That's straight out of the box from whoever sold it to me on eBay. Very reasonably priced there. And lastly, we're going to need a brake rotor. So again, eBay, different seller, used brake rotor off of a 200X. So as you can see, we'll take this front spindle assembly, and that goes right into place there. And then on the opposing side, we've got the brake rotor, and that'll drop right on there. Just need to put some metric nuts on there, and there's our front assembly. Front tire is on order. I opted for the smallest overall diameter front tire I could get away with for the project, because we are trying to keep it mini bike class, which ended up being, for this particular rim, which is an 11-inch rim, I got a 22 by 7 inch wide by 11 tire, and that was the smallest size that I could get to fit an 11-inch rim. This rim is about 6 inches wide, so the 7-inch wide tire should be nice on there. So that's that. Then back to eBay, we got a brand new shift lever, since that one was missing on the 185. Since we are going to be working on the motor, and we know that it has no compression, and I'll be diving into the top end and doing some machining, I got a top end gasket kit, surprisingly cheap. This whole kit, head gasket and O-rings and all these different seals, like $7 delivered off eBay, which is fantastic. Down here we got a brand new PZ27 carburetor for that motor. Came with a throttle cable. This happens to be for a twist grip style cable as opposed to a thumb throttle, so I may or may not use that. I haven't decided if I'm going to stick with a thumb throttle or go to a twist throttle on the 185. Next to that, we have the gas tank that came with the bike. I considered using this temporarily, at least to get going, and it is really, really clean in there now. So this is definitely a usable tank, but it's just massive, and I don't know that I want to use that on what's supposed to be a Mega Minibike. This came off of a Big Red, and they called it Big Red for a reason. Everything was huge, especially the gas tank. So this is probably the biggest tank on any of the ATCs, and I really didn't want to use it. Having said all of that, I did just 2 days ago locate a 60s, 70s vintage Hodaka 100, Ace 100 tank.
And here's a quick look at it.
Which is really cool looking, and it'll be a bit smaller than this tank, so I think it'll be much better. It also has more of the Mad Max feel that I'm going for. Then we have this Chinese recovered seat that I had hanging around. Not so sure that it suits the application or the bike. And locally on Let Go, we picked up this seat and this fender, which I believe came off an ATC 200S. And the fender is in surprisingly great condition, no cracks whatsoever, so that's cool. The seat, however, has a little bit of a rip and tear here and on the side. So if I do use that, I've got some black leather I can recover it with, but I'm not so sure we're going to use that seat either. Not necessarily the look we're going for, so I don't know, but we'll keep that in reserve, keep that in reserve. The fender, probably keep that in reserve. Not sure we're even going to use a fender like that. We may go with some sort of a steel fender that I fabricate later, but we have it if we need it. So, hi Curtis.
Hi.
So that's the recent purchases and what we're going to work with to get started. All right, guys. I think what we'll do is we'll start taking the front end off of this bike, and while we're at it, might as well strip it to make it easier to move, because once the front end is off, it's going to be a bit cumbersome. All right, so we'll see you soon. Well, so much for the roller. Rip this thing down pretty quick. There's the frame, swing arm that we're after, maybe the handlebars, and of course the fork tubes, put the wheels, the fenders, and everything over there, which we're not going to use. So basically we're going to take these fork tubes and we're going to make sure that they do fit the 200X triple tree. So I'll hand the camera off to my little buddy Curtis here, and he's going to film Dad checking it out. All right. Okay, Curtis. Got the fork tubes. Both seem like they're in really good shape. Pretty stiff. All right. All right, now take the triple tree. And look at that. Perfect fit. That's beautiful. All right, there's both of them in there, okay? And we'll be able to adjust where we need them exactly. I've got it upside down, obviously. I just want to see if that they fit, but I'll throw it in the right way. And there we go. So we got a set of 200X forks, Suzuki, and Honda trike. So we're going to call this thing the Hanzuki 185. Okay, so I threw the forks together just kind of the way they will be, and like I said, the Suzuki GS 450 forks fit great in the 200X triple tree. And I'm kind of basing my build for my Mega Minibike on the Baja. So the Baja, I expect my bike to be just a little bit bigger than the Baja. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure these front forks right now. I'll have my helper Curtis over here video while I measure the forks here, and we're going to measure these forks. Now keep in mind these ones have no weight on them, so I expect that they'll probably come down, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or an inch when there's some weight on it. So Curtis, go ahead and video Dad as I measure the forks, and we'll see what we get. So if I were to measure from about the center of where the bolt goes to the top of the triple tree, I'm getting 29.5 inches to here. So let's see what we get on the Baja. I measure from same place. I'm getting about 28. So it's only 1.5 inches longer on the forks that I'm planning on using, or that I'm building. So I think it should work out great. And if we compare them to what's on this trike, you can see that these almost fit inside the forks that somebody had fabricated that are all angle iron and Mickey Mouse together. So I think this is going to be great. And then lastly, just so you can see, since these are now essentially 200X forks with the Suzuki and Honda parts, this would be the rim, which easily fits between the forks, and of course, based on the triple tree, would have to if this is 200X and this is 200X. So I think we got a winner. All right, see you next time, guys.
Hey guys, if you think Curtis did a great job helping Dad film in this video, go ahead and smash that like button for Curtis, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to follow this Hanzuki 185 build. See you next time.